I saw something the other day that said out of the 97 million PlayStation players, almost half of them are still on last generation consoles, being the PlayStation 4. And the question is why? Why are there so many players still on last gen, even though that new generation has been out for almost 5 years now? So since the first console came out back in 1972, there has been 9 different generations of console gaming. And in those 52 years of gaming, which relatively isn't that long of a time, we have seen massive leaps when it comes to the graphical capabilities of gaming and just the way gaming can be in general. Like starting in the 5th generation from 1993 to 2006, we had the very first PlayStation. And at the time, this was groundbreaking. The PlayStation 1 was one of the most graphically advanced systems we had ever seen, until we got the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, which completely blew it out the water. The graphics jumped so largely that people could not believe it. It was one of those things that if your friend or somebody in your neighborhood had that new generation of consoles, you would go over their house just to see how crazy it was. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, that's when we were introduced to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. This was also right around the time when HD TV started to come out. We got the HDMI cord, and this was probably the biggest leap in gaming we have ever seen. This is around the time when we saw faces go from like cartoony, pixelated blobs to, oh my goodness, that looks like a real person. Like the graphics were just crazy. Like in this leap as well, we also got the advancements of online gaming. Like online gaming was already a thing, but it ramped up to a whole nother level. And after going for possibly the biggest leap in gaming history, the next generation of consoles, with being the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, would take a leap, but not nearly as big. Now, don't get me wrong, the graphical difference between the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 were massive. Like, it was at this point, we were looking at graphics like, there's no possible way that they can get better than they are right now. And funny enough, that notion is somewhat true, because the leap from the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, or Xbox One and Xbox Series X, is probably the smallest leap we have seen in the 52 years of gaming history. And that's not to be said there isn't a difference in the graphics, because there absolutely is, and there's more capability when it comes to running 4K games, but the majority of people don't have a 4K TV. The majority of people are still playing on 1080p, so them even getting a new generation of console, they're not going to notice a difference in the graphics that much. Secondly, the majority of people that play console video games, they're playing on their couch. They're like 6 feet away on a TV. They're not noticing the difference in minor graphics. Like console jumps in previous years, you're sitting 6 feet away on your TV, sitting on the couch, you're gonna notice a difference between an Xbox 360 and an Xbox One. Same with playing on like a PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. You're noticing the graphical difference, as opposed to this year's, you're not noticing that much of a difference between PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So simply put, one of the biggest reasons why there's so many players still playing on the PlayStation 4 and last generation consoles is the difference in graphics is not that big. It's not a big difference between the generations. There's no need for them, or they feel like there is no need for them to get a new console, because they haven't seen anything that made them switch. Another big reason why I feel like there's still so many players on the last generation of consoles is because they're still being supported. The majority, or some of the bigger games out there, like Call of Duty, GTA, Fortnite, they're still supporting those last generation of consoles. Like personally speaking, I was on the Xbox 360 for a long time. I mean, when Ghost came out, I was still on the Xbox 360. Advanced Warfare, I played it on the Xbox 360. It wasn't until Black Ops 3 came out, and the disrespect that game was, like I did not want to be caught dead playing the Xbox 360 version of Black Ops 3. That on top of the fact that old gen and new gen could not play games together. You could not get in a lobby, you couldn't join a party, and a lot of my friends were upgrading, so I had to upgrade if I wanted to play with them. But that's not the case with this latest jump in generations. Going from PS4 to PS5 or Xbox One to Xbox Series X, you can still play with your friends. Like if we all want to hop on Call of Duty, if I have a PlayStation 4, my friend has a PlayStation 5, we can get in the lobby and play together, no issues, no problems. And the thing is, at its core, you're getting the same experience as you would if you were on a newer generation of consoles. You can still play with your friends, you could still have an enjoyable experience, and the graphics pretty much look the exact same as well. Now granted, you might have some frame issues, your fans are probably going to be really loud, and you may take a little bit longer to load into games, but for a lot of people, that's not an issue for them. They don't care. They would rather just play games on the system they already have and not have to pay for a new console. And here's the unfortunate part. There's so many players that are still on last generation consoles that it's holding back what the new generation can do. Because game developers are still supporting that last generation, so there's only so much that they could possibly do with incorporating last gen. Like the ceiling is right here, including last gen, but if they were to do away with last gen and all those half players, it would be all the way up here, and we'd probably see more of a graphical jump and more capabilities as far as what the game can do. So long story short, gaming has evolved so fast in these last 52 years that we're finally at a point where it's slowed down. There's not much of a difference between consoles as much as we've been used to. So that's why I feel like there's so many players that are still on that last generation of consoles, that on top of the fact that it's still being supported. But let me know down below what you guys think. Why are there so many players still on last gen? And if you're on last gen, let me know down below why.